clarifying the differences between self-care and self-love. Now, this is something that I hear time and time and time again in the self-development world. People use these words interchangeably, but actually they are different. You see, I was talking to somebody at the weekend when I went out for brunch, and we were just sat outside looking over the panoramic view, which was beautiful here in Qatar. And she was saying she wanted to start paddleboarding for part of her self-love. And I looked at her and I said, but that's actually self-care. Think about it for a moment. Self-care are action things. They're the steps that we take in order to reach self-love. So what I mean by that is self-care are the things that we do to take care of ourselves. We've all heard of the analogy on the airplane, put your mask on first before helping others. And in my opinion, that's exactly what self-care is. Help myself first. Take the steps to do the things that fill my cup, that fill me up with smiles and good energy and just that warm, fuzzy feeling. So when we think about self-care, I want to start with asking you, what was the last thing you did for yourself that made you smile? Was it going for a salt bath? Was it journaling? Was it going for a walk? Perhaps it was going to the gym or going for a run. Lots of different things that we can do. But the key here is, what is it that shifts your needle? What is it that truly makes you smile? One of my favorite self-care items is to snuggle up with my husband and watch a show on Netflix or to watch an amazing movie. I love that because it fills me up with joy and love. But it's self-care action that creates that for me. You see, self-care is what we do. Self-love is what we love. So in other words, the self-love is the emotional piece. It's how we truly want to feel. It's, in my opinion, where we look in the mirror and we think, do you know what? I'm all right. It's the part of us that starts to fall more and more into a pattern of liking ourselves, being kind to ourselves, and ultimately loving ourselves. One of the things I often talk with my clients about in terms of that self-love piece, how would you speak with a friend who perhaps hadn't done something great recently, or perhaps had done less than they hoped to, or perhaps they had been more than they wanted to be in a certain moment? Would you beat them up? And the true answer is no, you wouldn't. You'd put your arm around them, you would support them, you would love them, you would tell them all the things that they are amazing at. There's a lot of things that you would do that perhaps when it's ourselves that haven't done what we expected or haven't behaved in a manner that we'd love, what do? We beat ourselves. Oh, why did I do that? Why did it trigger me? Why was I so rude to that person? Why was I angry at that person? We start actually almost just like getting into that whole piece around, yeah, that wasn't very nice. And we start to put ourselves under pressure and put ourselves under a heavier energy. But what if we were to step into, okay, Sonia, today perhaps we didn't handle that the way we'd love, but let's explore what was it that was lacking in you to begin with. You see, often, and look, I'm not perfect, I'm still work in progress, as are many of us. But the reality is, I now choose to step into, okay, what hadn't I done for myself today? Now, another favourite pastime of mine with self-care is I love to read. Every day without fail for at least 20 minutes a day, I read for pleasure. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love reading my self-development books, but I also make time to read for pleasure. You will always find a romantic comedy book somewhere near me. It's something that I disappear into. It's something that I love, and it's a non-negotiable. Every single day, I love to read. I also live on the beach, so I do love to go for a quick walk on the beach, even if it's only 5 minutes. Now, I used to journal all the time, but now I love to journal when I choose to journal, when I feel that there's something I just want to explore further, and then I step into journaling. So what I'm saying here is that ultimately, self-care is what we do, self-love is what we want. One of the things I'm going to invite you to do following on from this is to really explore what your self-care practices are. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Imagine for a friend, you've just had a conversation on FaceTime, or you've had a phone call, or you've been connected to somebody in some way. And often one of the things that we'll find ourselves ending a call with is, take care, see you soon. They're telling us to take care. So what are you doing right now to take care of yourself? Have you journaled recently? Have you meditated recently? Have you gone for a walk? Do you love to swim? When was the last time you went for a swim? Do you love to go to the gym? Do you love to read? Do you love to watch something on Netflix? Do you love to play a game on your phone or on your iPad or on whatever device it might be? You see, many people say that those are the sorts of things that we should stop. But I'm here to say, if it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel comfortable, if it makes you feel happy, then I wouldn't say to stop it. You may want to look at the amount of time you're gifting yourself for these activities. But if they really are making you feel content and happy, please don't stop them. But like I say, you might just want to look at the amount of time that we're allocating to them. As I mentioned, Netflix is one of the things I love to do. And especially if there's a new show that's been released and you can almost binge watch it. That was something that I realized was zapping a lot of my time. Did I stop Netflix? No. But what I've done is I've got creative at the time I choose to sit in front of Netflix, snuggled up with my husband. Self-care is what we do. Self-love is what we're aiming for. In my opinion, the self-love comes from maintaining a beautiful level of self-care. So doing the things that take care of us will ultimately lead to self-love. So then what is self-love? As I mentioned earlier, yes, it is about looking in the mirror and thinking, I'm pretty okay. But it's also much more than that. Self-love is a place where we can say, I actually like myself. Now, I remember many years ago to say things like that, people used to think it was arrogant or big-headed, but to actually become comfortable who we are, to me, is one of the first steps of self-love. Another thing I'm going to encourage you to do, take out a piece of paper, pause the video after I've explained what it is, by all means pause it, but take out a piece of paper and write all the things you do like about yourself. Is it that you're a good friend? Is it that you're a caring person? Is it that you always seem to be there for people? Is it that you love to surprise people? Is it that you love to send gifts randomly? Whatever it is, there's always something that we can find to like about ourselves. Now, many of us may look physically at ourselves, and that can, up until now, be a more difficult journey. But I guarantee you, there are things to be grateful for with every part of our body. I remember for many, many years, I didn't like my ears. Now what I realize is that I'm so grateful for my ears because they allow me to hear, they allow me to wear my sunglasses, which, trust me, living here in the desert, it literally is a daily event where I choose to put the sunglasses on. So now I love my ears, okay? So if there's a physical part of your body, I'm going to encourage you, think about, what does that part of the body love to do? I'll give you another real example. My tummy, I used to be a dancer, I was a gymnast, and my tummy was always toned. And as I've got a little bit older, perhaps my tummy isn't as toned as I would love. Now, that said, what I recognize is that my tummy holds everything in place. My tummy is protecting all my organs, and I love my tummy for what it's doing right now. So I'm going to ask you to take off your judgment hat and just look at you for who you are, your characteristics, loyalties to people, your commitment to things. And then for those of us who choose to, perhaps start to think about the physical parts. So self-love is an inner feeling. Self-care are all the things that we can do around us to bring us that beautiful, elevated piece of self-love. The reason I wanted to actually share this with you today is that so many people use those words interchangeably, self-care, self-love, self-care, self-love, almost as though they mean the same thing. So if we're doing self-care and it's not impacting our self-love, how we feel about ourselves, people often will give up on the self-care piece. So it really is critical, in my opinion, that we need to separate out the two. One is what we do, the other part is what we receive, those feelings, those emotions. Let's make sure we treat them for the phrases that they are. Self-care is what we do, self-love is what we get from it. One of the other things that people often say to me, how often should I do self-care? My answer to that is as often as you feel that you'd love to. You see, if we're doing self-care because it feels like it's something that we should do, we're actually not stepping into it in the right mindset, with the right energy. We're stepping into it from a point of view of, oh, I've got to do my self-care, almost as though it's become a routine. It's become a commitment that hasn't got a beautiful level of commitment, which is like, I'm choosing to do self-care today. So if we've got a really busy day and we've, oh, I've still got to do my journaling, I've still got to do my meditating, I've still got to do this, pause in that moment and ask yourself, what's just one thing you could do today to shift that needle? What's one thing that would very easily give you a warm, fuzzy, smiling feeling inside? You see, that's what self-care is about, shifting your emotional needle. One of the quickest ways that I step into it, I grab my phone and I look at some photos that have been there, look at what I've been doing over the last few weeks. So ultimately, we can do as much or as little self-care as we choose to. That here is the word, choice. You have a choice to put on your oxygen mask first, to take care of yourself first, before helping others. You see, we can never serve from an empty cup. So what have you done to fill your cup lately? The more self-care we can do, the closer we will get to self-love. But let's remind ourselves, it's not just a one-time event. It's not just a one day we'll do it and that's it forever. This kind of work, it is a journey. So I'm going to invite you to be kind and gentle with yourself. And I'm going to invite you to treat yourself exactly like you would one of your good friends. You would support them, you would love them. And that's exactly what I'm encouraging you to do here today.